A very good morning to you and welcome to Newsfile. And thank you very much, the guys led by Stephen Ante in Tamale. We are going to stay with you throughout the day as the NPP determines, its new national executives. Welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. And on this program, we put Ghana first. Today on the show, I'm sure you're aware that some 5,200 NPP men and women are in Tamale right now to decide the fate of over 40 individuals seeking to fill 8 national offices of the largest opposition party to begin the political onslaught to try to unseat John Mahama's NDC government. We are interested in the conduct of this National Delegates Conference because the NPP is a potential government in waiting, and those chosen today might soon direct affairs of the state. We will deal with other burning matters that dominated the headlines this week. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. You're welcome. We'll give you also a special insight into the EPAs. The debate is not over yet, but we hope that we can put that debate to rest today. You're welcome. We'll be back right away.
Naughty boy!
First, come have a bath, then go out.
But he has just had a bath.
Any proof?
I have bathed him myself.
But Mom, the chefs are laughing because these ordinary soaps are less effective on them. That's why there's new and advanced Lifebuoy.
New Lifebuoy with Active 5 to give you 100% better germ protection from germs.
Any proof?
Mom, it's lab tested. There's 100% proof.
The world's #1 germ protection soap. New Lifebuoy.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. And this certainly is your most authoritative news analysis platform on radio and television. This show is coming to you live from the Multi-TV studios. This is your Joynews channel. It is live on Joy 99.7 FM and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. And we are also streaming live at Multi-TV World/streams and myjoyonline.com. Subsequently, this program is available on the ABN TV Sky channel 290. That is the best black television station in the UK and elsewhere in London. They received that award, I think, about just a month ago. Thank you very much for being partners with us here on Newsfile. The show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of MTN everywhere you go. Welcome to the new world. Lipton tea, inspiration flowing from nature. Sasso Kumuntuntum Preko. Errata Motors, that's the best vehicles for the best prices. Star Assurance, your solid partner. And Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. Well, as you just heard me a while ago, there are some 5,200 NPP men and women in Tamale right now to decide the fate of over 40 individuals who are seeking to fill only 8 positions, national offices of the largest opposition party in the country. And soon as that is done, you can be assured that the battle is started. They are going to begin the political onslaught to try to unseat JDM. That's His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana and his NDC government. And we say we are interested in this matter, and of course you would discover that we have taken a lot of machinery and staff to Tamale. Our guys are on the ground. Stephen Ante, Emmanuel Ante, Elton John Brobe, name them. They are all there. Gifty Apia, sure, all of them are there. And we'll be bringing you the latest, the developments as they happen over there. And why are we interested? I have stated that. We are interested because these men and women who are going to be chosen soon, potentially, may be directing affairs of state. That is, if the NPP does succeed in its quest to unsettle the NDC in 2016. So we ought to be interested. And I did indicate to you that we'll be dealing with some very burning matters that dominated the headlines this week as well. And we are privileged to have also get some very special insight into their economic partnership agreements. You remember last week we had a discussion about it, and it appears that there's a consensus, overwhelming groundswell of the views within the Ghanaian populace that it may not be the best for Ghana. There's that other group that says that let's sign it, we need it, we have no option. We'll get some special insight into that. Your views and comments, questions are welcome. 1422, that's a text line. 1422. You can also send them to 1760, or send them directly to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. Newsfile@myjoyonline.com. You can also post them on our Facebook wall and we'll read them, share them with the rest of the world. My guests, two of them are already seated in the studio, and regular panelist, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Abdul-Malik Baku Jr. Good morning and welcome to the show, Senior.
Good morning, my brother.
Thank you for coming. And we also are privileged to have the Honorable Haruna Idrisu, the Minister for Trade and Industry. Good morning and welcome to the show. Thank you very much. The NPP is in your constituency literally this morning. I would have thought that maybe you would be there trying to see that they don't infiltrate your ranks and dilute your strength in the area.
They are enjoying Tamale very, very well.
Right.
I hear that the streets were packed with enthusiastic supporters of the NPP. I do have some friends and brothers at the highest level of the NPP that we have engaged in some informal conversation to appreciate the fact that there was no cause for alarm and to be worried about it. And the significant thing is that for many of them, this is the first time they are traveling to Tamale from many parts of the country. They will begin to appreciate the people of Tamale and their culture, a very peaceful and hospitable environment in Ghana, and a place to be. But I think that from my monitoring so far, if it's compelling after this session, I may catch up with a flight to be in Tamale. Okay. Originally, I was thinking that I'll be part of the NDC delegation that will be sent there.
Okay.
But this time, there is a difference between party and government sometimes.
Right.
And we're allowing the leadership of the party to play their role.
And I have made a personal observation that it appears that now you have a lot more concentration to the business of governance and managing your ministry, a very strategic ministry, than getting into political matters.
I used to be national youth organizer of the party, so it's exciting working for the party. Right. Now you must appreciate the fact that you are working for the state, and you have a responsibility and obligation to every Ghanaian.
Especially when you're managing
even this morning,
ministry
this morning I spoke to a number of NPP MPs,
right.
And I got some good advice from Natoshi, one of the whips, who appreciated and discussed what could be done to make it eventful for them in Tamale. And we are doing exactly that. We have cautioned the NDC supporters in Tamale to remain very calm and steadfast and to stay away from any of the NPP-related activities as they go to Congress. And we pray that they emerge very successful getting their leaders through.
But you're not entertaining any fears at all that they are at your home with that huge numbers. There's a likelihood of, you know...
Not at all. One of these weekends, maybe I have to go with Malik Kwekubako to Tamale to appreciate that Tamale South remains a no-go zone. I can share my electoral statistics 2016 with you. I got 56,000 in 2012. I'm up into 65,000, so I'm not the least worried at all. Going forward. But I should concede that when the crowd entered Tamale, some of our people expressed concern that the elephant had descended so heavily on them.
All right. Okay, Abdul Malik, certainly it's a very lively weekend. The whole nation's attention, I suspect, without doubt, will be on what happens in Tamale this morning.
Yes, I mean, it's this is the biggest opposition party holding a national delegates conference to elect new set of leaders.
And some will say, without fear of any equivocation, that the only potential alternative.
Sure, at this stage, based on the electoral statistics, strengths and weaknesses, one has to be honest about that. But politics, anything can happen anyway. Right. You never can tell. But the point is that it's a very important...
I qualified it to escape attacks from the PNC and
CPP
the PPP and all of that.
A few moments ago, he was talking about the stronghold. That was actually a traditionally CPP safe seat, and they have more or less swallowed it. But we'll come to that in the future. But the point really is that it's a very important event. My primary concern was that of security.
Right.
Last Wednesday, I made a certain contribution on Kwame Sefakai's program. And I thought the fact that an event, such a big event, was going to take place there was itself a vote of confidence in the security stabilization situation in that place. And also the fact that it also has its collateral implications for business, however temporal. No, but I was a bit upset with the shooting incident that happened,
which led to the 9 who got injured.
Yes, I was really taken aback, because not for a moment did I imagine that would happen, because I am really interested in the continuing stabilization.
And for those of you who have not had a wind of what Kwekubako is referring to, is that on the first day, upon the arrival in Tamale, we are told of a group of young men who were riding an unregistered motorbike who shot into a crowd, and about 9 people got injured, and we're told they are receiving treatment at the hospital.
Yes, that has been my only concern. No, I'm so a bit upset about that, and I'm hoping that it doesn't develop into any scenario, because I'm told that the NPP regional communication team have issued a statement claiming they know those who did it, and those who did it are NDC, and that they would retaliate. I am hoping they will focus on their program, allow the police to conduct the appropriate investigations and deal with the culprits, regardless of their party colors. Let's focus. That part of our country needs continuing, deepening stabilization of the security environment, and for me that is primary. So this talk of retaliation is what has made me set up, and I think we should look at it clearly. I have to welcome now Nana Akumia, immediate past communications director of the New Patriotic Party, into the studio. Good morning and welcome to the show, Nana.
Good morning, Samson. Thank you.
Fortunately, we are very grateful that you managed to join us here in the studio, because it appears that literally every member of the NPP presently is in Tamale.
Except Nana Akumia.
Okay.
Well, I expect to catch the afternoon flight.
Right. Right. Thank you very much for doing us the honors. So this morning, as you sit here, what goes through your mind as you think about what is going on at the Tamale Stadium?
Well, I am happy that the NPP has gotten to this stage. This is an essential part of the reorganization of the party. We started in the last 3 months of 2013 with the polling station reorganization. All the polling stations in this country, we organized elections to elect 5 executives for each of them. And then we followed up with the 275 constituencies, where we've successfully elected executives, and then to the 10 regions where new executives are in place. Today's exercise to elect the national executives would complete the executive and leadership structure of the party. And then we will be ready for the flag bearership contest. The flag bearership contest should take place maybe in the last quarter of this year. And when that is also done, then the party has finished with the reorganization, and for the next 2 years we will pursue the task of coming back into power. So today's event is I'm happy that the NPP has reached this stage, and I'm wishing everybody who is standing for offering himself or herself for leadership position every luck and every success, and I'm wishing that the delegates will make choices that will inure to the benefit of the party and the country.
Okay. Just a brief insight into what is going to happen today. It's not just a process to elect people, officers. That is That's a major part of the agenda. But this is the National Delegates Conference, supposed to be the highest, is it, decision-making point for the party, right?
Yes.
Right, and there are other things that will be done. What exactly is going to happen even before or after the elections?
Well, like you said, the Delegates Conference is the highest authority in the party. It had representatives from constituencies through to national, through to region to national. So it's the highest authority in the
Those
party.
who are attending include members of the National Council, members of the National Executive Committee, all members of the Regional Executive Committees, all members of the Constituency Executive Committees, 15 members of the National Council of Elders, 12 delegates from every external branch as defined under Section 8.2 of your Constitution, 1 TESCOM representative from each recognized tertiary institution in the country, 15 patrons elected from among themselves, founding members across the country who are signatories to the registration documents of the party at the Electoral Commission, all members of Parliament, and all new patriotic party members who are ministers, deputy ministers, that's when you are in power, and so on. So that is a meeting of the soul of the party.
Absolutely, something. And you're looking at about 5,200. Yeah, to over 5,000 people.
Right.
Now, like you said, this conference or this body meets once a year. When they meet, they take reports from the executives on the state of the party. Right. Reports on the finances of the party, the organization of the party, the viability of the party, whatever has happened.
Your Constitution says specifically that the conference will deliberate and make appropriate resolutions on the National Chairperson's report, the National Treasurer's Statement of Accounts, and any other matters.
Yeah. So every year it meets and receives these reports on the state of the party, finances, organization, whatever. And then whatever resolutions have to be taken are tabled and taken. So that is a routine exercise. Now, every 4 years, the National Delegates Conference, aside from the routine business of receiving reports on the state of the party, every 4 years, they also conduct elections. They form an electoral college to conduct elections to select national executives. So year 2014 is the 4th year after year 2010 when the Delegates Conference constituted an electoral college in Kumasi to select, apart from receiving all these reports, to select executives. 4 years are up. So this year, the conference will receive the reports for the first session, and then it will constitute itself into an electoral college and conduct elections.
Right. I'll return to you shortly. Abdul Malik, when you listen to what has been going on so far, and we're just going to do a brief about the conference and hold on with discussions on that for now, pending when they get into, full action. When you hear the discussions going on, prior to this particular conference, there are those who suggest that the party is not as united as they portray to the outside world. There are camps, there are groups, and almost at each other's throat every day.
Well, such a mass party, it's such a huge mass party. I would be surprised if they didn't have any differences, camps and divisions, even though they are united on a certain tradition and a certain philosophy. But it would be unrealistic, indeed, naive, to expect such a mass party not to have different camps. So that's okay. I think one can live with that. What is wrong is sometimes the aberrations, the kind of language that is applied, the kind of, statements that are made, the accusations that are left unsubstantiated, the character assassination and the rest that come on board. It's still human, I understand, but it's a sign of also some level of irresponsibility and indiscipline. So yes, you're human, so it means you can just talk and talk by heart. I'm not too sure about that. That's why the party constitution has some clauses, some sections that deal with misconduct and all those things. You know? So that's true, but I think overall, as Akomia indicated, we began from the grassroots. Some 26,000 or so polling stations or so that they went through, relatively very peaceful and progressive. There were few hiccups.
There's an injunction on about 3 or 4 of the areas that cannot vote today at the conference.
That's not a big deal. It's a big deal for those who cannot vote. I cannot appreciate that. But overall, in terms of statistical impact, it's not a big deal. Well,
I'll ask Nana Kumia if that's a sign of proactive leadership, because we understand that there were steps to make sure that those people got, their elections done so that they will be able to participate in the process today. But ideally, things didn't work for them.
Ideally, you try to empower and enable all members of the party who qualify to vote to be delegates and be at the appropriate forum to vote. That's the ideal situation. But sometimes in practice, in the course of trying to operationalize those principles, you suffer some challenges. And so you look at the statistical impact, and then you realize whether you are carrying along a critical mass of the party or not. We are human beings. You can never get a perfect situation. But to be honest with you, there are certain statements that are being made, and I agree, when it comes to the season of internal competitions, it comes with some of these things, but some of them are such that if you are not careful, it can have a collateral damage on the corporate integrity of that organization.
Right.
Maybe I should say it, I should say it well for Kweku.
Sure.
They are simply enriching us with the needed arsenal,
right,
for a strong rebuttal and to reference their own words without paying royalties.
I agree.
As to the kind of description they are given to their eventual national leadership of the party. But Samson, let me just respond to a very...
It is true, but it's half-truth. Because you see, at the same
if you
time,
describe your own
people,
potential national chairman as a gay,
no,
you expect who? When we go to platform,
no, I don't mean the
people will
accusation.
use that against that person.
No, you're not
right
getting me.
They started peddling, this drugs thing against him.
I'm not
and
talking
that
about
wash.
allegations or the accusations. Okay. I'm talking about the benefits that come to your end. And I'm saying that within your party, even before you go for your congress or whatever you call it, are also things coming out from leading members of your party. So it cuts across.
Right.
That's the point I was making.
Okay, but what do you say? Is it healthy for the party to have ex-executives, former executives, appear to take a stance and campaign against the incumbent? You have Ohini Into, who has declared that, look, do away with the current executives. You have other key members in the party. You have Obi Amwa, Member of Parliament, who says the current executives, do away with them. They are not competent. You have Dr. Frimpong Boateng and others. They seem to be against Jake and his team. Is that healthy?
Yeah, Samson, in responding to it, there are two important issues Kweku raised. One is legitimate and deep fear and concern about the shooting incidents in Tamale. And we expect that the security agencies will act timeously and high-handedly in dealing with this matter. If you recall, there was an earlier shooting incident in Abu Abu, which almost informed the NPP to even consider a change of venue for this Congress. Those packets of disturbances in Tamale will have to be dealt with decisively, and that has been conveyed strongly to the Regional Coordinating Council and to DISEC to be able to identify the perpetrators of this violence and deal with them ruthlessly. But I agree with Kweku. Even as I was away from home, when I heard about this incident, I put all my 2 hands on my head and said, no, Tamale again, this should not happen. So I entirely agree with him. But the beauty of Tamale is that these violence are normally isolated in just 1 or 2 areas, and I believe that we will, as part of the leadership, I've called on our opinion leaders, our chief, the youth leaders, and others to all play a role in not damaging the reputation of Tamale as a very safe place. But coming to the New Patriotic Party Congress, yes, it's true that it's the largest opposition party in Ghana. Electoral statistics 2012 representation in Parliament, and a potential and promise into the future leadership of the country. I think the question we should be asking before I come to your main question is, one, are they in compliance with the national constitution of Ghana? It requires that a political party must be national in character. Today's event will be a climax of a series of activities starting from the bottom level of the party structures to the top. So that must bring closure into what Nana Akumia described as a reorganization of the party and getting structures of the party and getting it battle ready for the 2016 elections. Right. Now the next legitimate question is, are they compliant with the specific constitution of the New Patriotic Party? You say yes again because so far there is no legal hindrance or limitation to the conduct of the exercise, and we believe that the end results will also be in tandem with what their constitution requires them to do. The third issue, which answers your question, another issue raised by Kweku, is within every political party there are interest groups. So let's not make assumptions or exaggerations out of it. Even if you have the right, you have center right, you have far right people, they share the same philosophy and ideology, but sometimes there are those who want it exercised with moderation. Now, over time, those who are questioning the competence of the current executives, I'm sure they have narrowly come to a conclusion that blame the national executive for the defeat of the party in the 2012 elections. If the NPP does an assessment of its own performance, an assessment of its own candidate, presidential and parliamentary candidate, and go beyond just imposing this burden that it was the doing of our national executive, then you appreciate it. The danger is where the call for an entire exit of the national executive is not informed by merit, but maybe just petty hate, or the person doesn't share the group he belongs to within the political party, I'll be concerned. But if it is founded on the basis that no, this national executive haven't served the party right, they have not been able to achieve the goals to which we set for them, that is legitimate.
Certainly,
but the
ultimate goal that is set for them is to win power, and they didn't win power.
It's also true
Two times
they will try to
deliver power to the NPP.
They will try to patch up, and my advice to them is to try and patch up even after the election. Okay. Today, they will still appear fragmented and disunited.
Now, I'm asking you, Kumewu, Jabing, and Menchia North, they are not going to vote today. That is sad. And you knew long ahead of time that because last month's elections, constituency executive elections, there were problems, and the national executive ordered a rerun of these elections. Things have not been carried to their conclusion, and now here you are. That's unfair, and it sounds like an executive that's not proactive enough, isn't it?
Well, Samson, I wouldn't make excuses for the executive, but the 275 constituencies, and if 3 or 4 have problems, I believe that is a fairly good performance out of 275.
These problems can come to haunt you later and cause problems.
If I develop my point, you would see the context. You see, like I said, 275 and only 3 or 4. It would not affect the conference in any manner because the quorum is oversubscribed. The quorum is 1/3 the 5,200. So it's oversubscribed. So these 3 or 4 constituencies will not affect it. Number 2, you see
people like going to court too.
No, a conference cannot be challenged by.
Exactly. That's what I'm looking.
It doesn't affect the requirement of a quorum for the conference.
The constitutional stipulation of each from here, from there, from that. If one of that is knocked off, and your constitution doesn't make provision to take that on board without violation, I am just thinking ahead that you may have a problem, and that's what you may be doing today.
You would rather have a problem if those people who have been barred by courts are allowed to take part. If the courts have determined that they should hold on.
Right.
This is a law-abiding party, let's hold on. If it would affect the quorum, then you have a problem, but it will not affect the quorum. Now, the other one about the executives and their performance, you see, because of the, I believe, the petition, the electoral, the Supreme Court petition, most of these exercises were supposed to have taken place much earlier.
Right.
But there was a delay because of the Supreme Court for 8 months. So you have a situation where we have to do the reorganization with very little intervals between the stages. You know, with the polling station, after that, just about a month, you have the constituencies, then just about a month, you have the region, and then about, in fact, this one has been postponed, otherwise it was going to take place 1 month after the regional congresses.
Right.
So you have just about a 1 month window to deal with issues that come up. From the constituency level, you have just 1 month to deal with issues before the regional congress. From the regional congress, you have just about 1 month, if this postponement hadn't come, to deal with issues that may come up. Meanwhile, a lot of the executives this time are also fighting for re-election. So the focus is a little disturbed, because they're also fighting for re-election.
And sorry, I'm going back to that. I was only asking that if your constitution does not bar you, then that's fine. But you see, the excuses you are giving, if they are not things that were occasioned by what we say in law, force majeure, or an act of God that you could not do anything about, and you are required to have made sure that everything was done, was in proper shape before you go to the Congress, and it wasn't done, you still haven't achieved legally what ought to be completed.
I'm saying to you that the quorum has been satisfied. So legally, there's no legal impediment.
Thank you.
I am very sure that when the new executives are in place, they will deal with these 3-4 constituencies. And mind you, some of these issues that arise from the constituency elections, you would try and broker an agreement if people are still intransigent, if people still have entrenched positions. Then you are, of course, you really cannot force decisions down people's throats in some of these cases, except through negotiation. And if the negotiations are delayed and people are not willing to compromise on time, you would have this situation. But I'm sure when the new executives come, they'll be able to tackle. Haruna, the minister, said something about we giving them ammunition. I thought he was trying to gloat a little. And I would advise him not to, because they haven't.
But you are washing your dirty linen in the public, and they are aware of all that is going on.
I agree with that. But like I'm saying, it's almost become a pattern when elections are to be held in political parties in this country. So
who says that's unavoidable in a vibrant party like yours?
Well, every year every party will have to look at what happened and try and make regulations to limit it. That is what the parties should do. The NDC, they haven't even started, but we know the allegations that are flying about regarding the chairmanship. We know the allegations that are flying about.
Let it get to their term and we'll discuss
their regional chairmanship.
They will be the subject when it gets to their term, so don't go into those allegations.
It's just a little advice to my brother Haruna.
We're taking a quick break on this point, and we'll come and deal with some other matters. But I wanted to ask you about this. You know, there's a letter that Paul Afoko is supposed to have written to the National Executive to make some complaints or raise some issues which he pointed to the Constitution that certain category of people should not be allowed to vote at the conference. And that letter somehow got into the public domain. And now it's got Nanado to come forward to say, you know, I will vote, no one can stop me from voting. Now you are hearing there's also a publication that seeks to say Nana endorses Afoko and all of those things. What is that?
Well, you know, the people who are running or supposed to be supervising the processes for the elections, a lot of the time they also have their own interests. Mr. Afoko is a contestant. He wanted clarification on some of the members of the Electoral College. So he wrote to the party to seek clarification. Unfortunately, somebody leaked the letter that he had written, and so it becomes an issue that comes into the public. But otherwise, he was seeking clarification. I sincerely think that it was a bit too late in the day, because they had series of meetings, the contestants and the offices that are supervising the election. They've had series of meetings. to resolve issues, especially the one about the proxy voting and so on and so forth. So having not brought this issue up at those meetings and then writing a formal letter 2 or 3 days to the conference, which is then leaked, it's something that really should have been avoided, especially when the category that Mr. Afoko sought to seek clarification from also has people like past flag bearership and past running mates and so on. So somebody thought that, well, if this is put in the public domain, it might inure to the benefit of some other interests. So it's unfortunate. I think that should have been avoided.
So the position is that by your constitution, past flag bearers and running mates are allowed to vote at the conference?
Past flag bearer, you see, in the case of, I haven't seen past flag bearer being allowed to vote.
Okay.
What I have seen is past presidents and also flag bearers, sitting flag bearers. The past flag bearers, I haven't seen the specific mention. I may be wrong, but I haven't seen a specific provision for past flag bearer. What I have seen is past presidents, past vice presidents, and flag bearer and running mate. So that presupposes that you must be a flag bearer or you must be a running mate. At the moment, the NPP hasn't got a flag bearer or a running mate. Right. But you see, somebody like Nanado, he falls into several other categories. Founders, he's a founding member, he falls into that and all of that. So,
okay. I think that's really great clarity. Haruna, briefly, you are opening the NPP's constitution. You want to make a point?
Yes. Which page? Page 36 to 37 to 38. And I would offer free legal advice to the new patriotic party that beyond today's Congress, you must be reviewing aspects of the Constitution, particularly in respect of page 36, 122. The National Delegates Congress shall be attended by the following delegates. Samson, for abundance of caution, you can look at other political party constitutions, even outside Ghana, best practice. I think that the rendition there must read, I know they are very brilliant lawyers, the following shall attend and vote at the National Delegates Congress. That would provide for a better clarity in the future. There's a difference. When you say the following shall attend, give any meaning to attend. You want to clothe them with the power and the right to vote. So it is not just participation in the Congress. It is the power to exercise a right to vote, which is a constitutional right. Every Ghanaian has a right to vote and be voted for. So I think that the new patriotic party must improve it. But for the fact that Nana has come, that Nana Akufo-Addo will exercise a right as a founding member of the new patriotic party. Except in that respect, I would not recognize any capacity of him legally to vote. If they were referring to his role, and I refer Nana Akumia again to the clause which deals with past national, I just benefited with, from Kweku's guidance, where you have then past leadership of the party. There, the rendition is not that they have a right to vote. They are recognized as members of the National Executive Committee of the party. That does not clothe him with the right and capacity to vote. So Nana will only be voting today if it's justified under the new Patriotic Party Constitution that he's part of those who signed that document of registration with the Electoral Commission of Ghana, but not in his capacity as a flag bearer of presidential candidate. In any case, there's no flag bearer.
Okay, so you're saying that they should provide sufficient clarity and avoid any ambiguity by adding to the National Delegates Conference shall be attended by the following delegates.
They shall attend and vote. Absolutely.
Okay.
And Congress can take a look at it.
Is it not instructive that they say shall be attended by the following delegates?
No, even
they said delegates.
I say that there is still a lacuna there. There's something lost significantly.
No, but when you are named delegates, I think that implicitly is that you have a right to vote.
Delegates, you may just participate in the process. Like I'm making the distinction. Nana Akufo-Addo may be recognized as a member of the National Executive Committee by virtue of being a past presidential candidate. And I'm saying by law, whether in the constitution or NPP constitution, there's no flag bearer and there's no presidential candidate to the New Patriotic Party until so determined at a National Delegates Congress dedicated for the purpose of electing a presidential candidate. So today, Nana Addo has no status within the legal remit of the NPP.
Interesting there. Okay, thank you very much. We don't have to belabor this that much. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back. The show is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. We're coming to you from the Multi-TV studios. We have our men and women all over the Tamale metropolis and inside the stadium where the NPP is holding its most important National Delegates Conference. We'll be right back and give you more details about that. But when we return, we'll get into just some other discussions. We'll be right back. Okay, you're welcome back. This is Newsfile. Thank you very much for staying with us. Your views, your comments, as I always say, particularly questions, are welcome. 1422, that's the text line, 1422. You can also send them to 1760. Or post your comments on our Facebook wall. We'll share them with the rest of the world. Send them directly to me by email to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. A few comments here that I'm going to put one particular comment to you, Nana Komia, and let's see how we resolve that in respect of the NPP and move on. We're going to get some very special insight briefly into the EPAs, but there's a major subject to be discussed right after that point. And this is what it is. They have had at various times been responsible for supplying 65% to as much as 98% of petroleum products in Ghana. If they, in the last 3 years, were responsible for 98% of the critical commodity, what explanations does government have for ditching them, literally, for reportedly inexperienced Nigerian TSL company to take over the main operations of Bost? And this is being done at a time the president is preaching support for indigenous business and local solutions to grow the economy. That's the biggest question we'll find answers to right after the bit about the EPA. Now, Nana, there's someone I suspect is a member of the NPP and is asking the question. He says that they need further clarification. Does a co-opted member of the NPP NEC who can't vote at ordinary executive meetings be allowed to vote at such a higher decision-making conference? How do you explain that? It's just like making a co-opted board member voting at an AGM of an organization. Clarify for us. You are talking about Nana, for example. He belongs to various other groups, so he can find himself there and vote. What happens to Dr. Baumia?
Dr. Baumia...
Which of the other groups does he belong to?
Dr. Baumia, by the Constitution, does not seem to fall in any of the groups.
Right.
He falls into the category of past running mate. And there is no category for even a past flag bearer.
Right.
So you don't have a category for past running mate. What you have is past president, past general secretary, past chairman. You don't have past flag bearer, you don't have past running mate.
So what do you know?
Dr. Baumia would seem not to fall into any of the categories.
What about future running mate?
Sorry? Future But the co-opted members and the National Council, if you cannot vote at the National Council, I suspect that logically you will not be able to vote. If you are a co-opted member, you will not be able to vote at the National Congress. I believe that should be the position.
Okay.
So Samson Baumia simply has no voting right, except if he's coming as a member of his constituency. That is possible.
Right.
Yeah.
If his primary constituency, I believe, Wale Wale Naleru area, it should be, that area.
Well,
even the capacity as running mate, he has no legal status of a voting.
Let's hear
right.
I would want some information from that's from Akomia, obviously. what happened 2010 at their delegates conference?
You see,
what happened? I want the precedent.
The numbers of the co-opted members are maybe 5. So it really shouldn't be a big issue.
But legally, if they are disqualified, they should not be seen to.
Well, it is not stated clearly that they are disqualified. What it says is that they are co-opted members of the National Council. And even at the National Council, they don't have a vote. So they cannot be part of the National Council team to the conference and have a vote there.
Okay.
So even though it is not stated,
what happened?
So last 2010, I don't think it came up.
Okay. Are you sure?
The issue that came up
did Nana
was the proxy.
Did the Bawumia vote 2010?
2010.
Obviously Nana voted.
Yes.
Did he?
Yes.
You see, like I was saying earlier,
yes.
you have to be careful.
I don't think
you have to be careful so that you don't take this one spoiled granite to stain the whole process.
Yeah.
And then later on, you have a bigger, issue on your hand, because even this conference, you had difficulty in raising the funds to stage it. Okay.
So as for the co-opted members, this is about 5. These are directors of subcommittees set up by the National Executive.
Right.
Finance, communication, and so there's just about 5 people.
Right.
So and it wasn't an issue in 2010.
Okay. Mr. Idris, I hope you don't make further interventions so that we can move on and deal with today one of the primary issues that we need you to speak to.
Is the
but
NPP
we have the
Congress.
whole day for MPP.
Okay, we'll come back to
the
that.
The MPP is on the media the whole day.
One issue.
Right.
You see, Article 55 of the 1992 Constitution, I'm strengthening your point, imposes an obligation on all registered political parties in Ghana to have their internal mechanism reflect internal democratic values as a requirement that they should satisfy. Now, if you come to all the political parties in Ghana, and I just wanted to raise this issue, it says that the Constituency Delegates Conference shall nominate persons who shall vote at the National Delegates Congress. So assuming a particular branch of the party in the 275 constituency ideally should have gone into an election of a sort in determining who should participate and who should vote. If they went to that conference and determined, for instance, Bawumia, who are you to say that he's not qualified to vote?
Right. And you articulated that point.
They went well.
Now we're going to move on.
We're going to come back to
Sorry, we're going to move on. And there's this message. This one says, okay, I know him to be NPP. I thought it was directly about one of the clarifications that you're seeking. Thank you very much. He says that, Chief, you and your African prints, no size. Wow, I like your shirt. Thank you very much. What you just need to do is tell you, my good friend, just call 026-56-50918 or 020-433-6444. That's the line to Latida. And they have a special package between now and end of this month. You buy one, you get another for free. So contact Latida. And for those of you watching television, you see the telephone numbers that scroll by, and just make sure you write them up and contact them. Now, briefly on, before we go to Bost, briefly on the EPAs. We've had, an hour's discussion. I have canvassed all the knowledge that I have had about it, the research I have done about it so far. The point is, there appears to be a greater, view, rather, constituency in the country that Ghana should not be signing on to it. What do you say? You have gone, held meetings, and you know better than we should do.
If the constituency was adequately informed and appreciated the issues at stake, I probably will not disagree with that position. But let me just state that I will, along the line, share a philosophical pattern of EPS with you. I have likened it to a witch's dance. When you dance forward, you lose your father. You dance forward, you lose your mother. If you sign onto an EPA, it will come with an economic adjustment cost. If you do not sign, it will come with an economic adjustment cost.
Which is the better option.
It is simply compelling. And I trust that I'll share some information so that we both, together with our resource, Kwekwe and Co and Nana Kumia, can interrogate the issues. From the Cotonou Agreement, we had a non-preferential trade agreement, which gave us free access, 100% market access to the EU market. The EU is saying that we want to enter into a new preferential trade pact with ACP countries, including Ghana, which pact must replace the Cotonou chapters of 2008, to which the EU is saying that at the end of 1st October 2014, you either sign onto an economic partnership agreement or we will deny you market access into the EU market. So it's not a question of choice. It's compelling on the part of the EU that their parliament and the EU Commission have ratified a position. And Ghana, being part of the ACP countries, have to weigh what to do with this particular arrangement. So what they are saying is that now reciprocal free access, you will not be entitled to it at the end of 1st October, which is compliant with the WTO protocols. Now, the EU have said this, and West African countries have been negotiating. I should agree with you that the negotiations have been fraught with disagreement, negotiated under conditions of tensions, not the wish of African leaders to be signing on to this. But they simply are saying that we want a new relationship. And I just trust that I can share some of it with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When it started, and matter of record and fact for Ghana, in 2007, Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire initialed an interim economic partnership agreement which gave the EU 80% market access for a phased liberalization of 15 years. Now the EU is now saying, together with it, and let me make this distinction clearly, a Ghana pact with EU and the regional pact, we are now saying that the ECOWAS region is negotiating a pact with the EU, which is far better than what Ghana initialed in 2007. So it is even in Ghana's interest to go with the regional position if that is conclusive.
What's one feature, for example, that makes this better than what Ghana had originally initiated?
In 2007, you gave them 80% market access.
Right.
Today, you are giving them and they are agreeing to 75% market access. So you've gained 5%. It was a phased liberalization for 15 years. Now they say phase a liberalization for 20 years. Two beneficial factors in terms of an improvement in a regional EPA over the Ghana EPA.
Right.
Then the third factor, the ECOWAS heads of state have agreed to what we call a CET, a common ECOWAS tariff arrangement, which is also far better than what we have specific to Ghana. And when we enter into this relationship, it will be governed by the operation of the common external tariff, which will harmonize what exists within the UMA region and the English-speaking ECOWAS countries. I concede that part of the problem in Ghana is fear of losing the EU market. And that's what I said, it comes with economic adjustment costs. Currently, Ghana exports 40%. In fact, even to 49% of our exports go into the EU. What will happen to your domestic economy if you are denied 40% market access? That will have dire implications and consequences on your national economy. Total investment in the Ghanaian economy over the years is led by EU countries' investment in Ghana. Indeed, the highest, maybe tallow oil, I'm close, is the highest investment you have within your economy. That is an EU economy. So the fear of losing your exports into the EU market, fear of losing your investment, makes it compelling for you to have an arrangement of a sort with the European Union. But that is not to say that government is all for an economic partnership agreement.
All right.
And then there were vexed issues as the ECOWAS heads of state met. And I thought that I should also share that with the Ghanaian public through this, using this medium. The ECOWAS heads of state met, and in Senegal appointed President Sall of Senegal to lead a negotiation on the vexed issues, or you call them the divergences. For instance, the rules of origin clause. Where is the product coming from? They say that if it's 15% value addition from Ghana, it must qualify as coming from Ghana. If it is 10% value addition from EU, it must qualify as coming from the EU. The EU says that we agree to what you want on that. Non-execution clause, market access. And market access is what I said, 75% phased over a 20-year period. the most preferred nation clause. All this was agreed to. So when the ECOWAS heads of state met, it was not about whether we agree or disagree to enter into a partnership. It was that let us renegotiate 4 major clauses, which clauses included 1, market access, rules of origin clause, custom union clause, most preferred nation clause, and the ECOWAS heads of state said that, look, one significant thing to which I have heard your panelists quote Nigeria is that Nigeria had done what you call a fiscal impact assessment study. And according to Nigeria, they will lose $1 trillion if they entered into an EPA. Regrettably and unfortunately, Ghana over the years, since the debate in 2007, have not undertaken this activity. However, I am told that Third World Network, Oxfam and others have done some analysis of it.
And that's the basis, for their authoritative, non-compromising stance that this is a wrong deal.
When you are doing statistics analysis, do a scientific analysis. You may do an analysis how much you are losing, but do well to do an analysis how much you gain.
No, what I'm just looking at is that Nigeria has had the benefit of this. And on the basis of that, it's been able to push the regional bloc to hold on with signing.
It is not just Nigeria, please. Even Ghana has issues. Benin has issues.
No, there were comments. There were comments from government people to suggest that it was a done deal. There was no problem with Ghana at all.
Maybe that's why you are mixing. No, the principle of a regional economic partnership agreement with the EU have been endorsed by the ECOWAS heads of state. What the heads of state have done is to appoint 4 countries, Ghana, Nigeria, La Côte d'Ivoire, and Senegal, to negotiate some other aspects of the agreement before conclusion and before the deadline of October 2014. And I was just using Nigeria to raise a major issue. Loss of revenue. If you sign onto an EPA, Ghana, Nigeria, all ECOWAS countries, including Mauritania, will have revenue losses. Embedded in the Economic Partnership Agreement is a proposal by the European Union of a $6.5 billion as development assistance, which in their view may be compensation for revenue losses. The like of Nigeria, including Ghana, is arguing that that is not good enough compensation for the revenues that we'll lose. Our estimation is that we may be losing $15 billion. So if you come with $6.5 billion, that is insufficient. That is woefully inadequate. Those are some of the issues that the 4-nation country will look into with the EU in terms of development assistance.
People's ordinary understanding, and for which they kick against this, is informed by some of these aspects. Why am I interested in going into a pact with someone and I'm going to make some losses and he's now going to help me to take care of the losses I'm going to make?
Unfortunately,
what does he stand to benefit so much that
including civil society group, we would not be stampeded by emotive argument. This is a relationship where the other party is telling you that I have given you 100% market access all these years. I'm asking for a reciprocal opening of your market. Granted, or I close mine. Granted, or I close mine. Very simple. I'm saying that I won't give you the door again. I'm not sure you want to go through the window. So it is a preferential trade agreement that the EU is saying that it will prefer to have with ECOWAS countries. And let me cautiously
have we done any assessment to tell what the impact will be?
And I'm saying that
and the benefits and the cost-benefit analysis of the light industries that are already dying out in this country, and we're trying to build them. What it will mean when we bring them in. You have a
challenge as a country to wake up that I concede, to build your competitiveness, to build the capacity of your private sector and your industry, to equally take advantage of the open doors into the EU market by increasing your exports. We've launched a national export strategy which is seeking to up our export from 2.3 billion to 5 billion. Take advantage of it and enter. 2, diversify the direction of your exports, which we will do as government. But you don't achieve that in a day. I mean, today, everybody say go to China. You just don't walk into Chinese market. You must meet their minimum standards. You must have acceptability within China. That you cannot achieve within a year. Will you want to take a risk to lose 49% of your export volume? I'm not sure that if I were to give advice, I would give advice on the basis that don't go into this relationship of a sort. And then Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire, and we need to be very careful as a country.
I need you to be wrapping up on this.
I'm wrapping up on this. You see, Ghana and La Cote d'Ivoire, very similar in terms of our exports regime. Cocoa, they are lead. Ghana is second. If the EU closes its market, and I recall that Kweku in some debate even asked for clarity from me on this subject, processed cocoa cannot enter the EU market, not necessarily your beans. So there are other companies here like Cargill, which may be forced to close down because that will also lead to loss of jobs. It will affect your GDP and economic growth and other issues. So it's a double-edged sword.
I see.
Nobody is pleasantly walking and saying that EU come and we sign an agreement with you. I'm just saying that we should be watching more the body language of La Cote d'Ivoire and not Nigeria.
Right.
They have their oil resources, which is to their advantage. If Ghana fails to sign, and I just want to put this out, Ivory Coast have gone beyond initialing into signing.
Right.
What they are left with is ratifying. If they do, then it means you can direct any other exports, including Ghanaian company, maybe to La Cote d'Ivoire, save that they may not satisfy rules of origin requirement.
Right.
But many of your companies may change and go and side there and take advantage. So I think that Ghana and La Cote d'Ivoire must lead this process. Thankfully, we have the president of Ghana now chairing ECOWAS, and he will provide the needed leadership in driving this process forward. So it is not as if Ghana has just woke up and said that we are signing onto an EPA.
Okay.
It's a requirement and request of the other
briefly,
party.
we have gone over this issue, and there are aspects that he, for example, statements he makes about being sort of in a tight and difficult situation. I remember how you described that. Now, he says probably it is because people do not have sufficient understanding. For example, the Third World Network and the coalition says that you were supposed and expected and mandated to organize fora. You didn't do it. So who do you blame?
Well. We cannot continue allocating blame.
Right.
We need solutions.
Right.
And this is a tightrope, really. We are walking a tightrope. It's easy for those who are not in government or managing the statecraft to agitate, to argue. It's very easy. Now, if you are in the saddle and you are the one who must manage the process, you find yourself confronted with a huge dilemma.
Right.
And I think that's the situation in which we find ourselves in. The drift that I get from my brother is that we are committed in principle in engaging in this process.
That's we have since 2007.
Yes,
right?
So that we are aggregating that commitment. So maybe the earlier we begin a certain constructive engagement here to create a critical mass of commitment, the better.
Right.
Because it looks as if the options are very limited.
Right.
And you see, there's so much ideological and emotional, nationalistic sentiments driving some part of the debate. So it's not going to be an easy thing for government. Let me be honest with you.
Right.
Come such periods, you enjoy being in opposition, where you can agitate.
Nana, briefly on this subject, from what the minister is saying, he has a better insight. Do you begin to feel? I don't know where you stood earlier, but are you beginning to feel? And I know your position, ECOWAS. You say it's such a useless body, but are you beginning to overkill? Are you beginning to feel that probably, it's not as bad as we thought?
Well, Samson, you see, let me just give you a little scenario. I mean, you, Samson, very athletic. Look at your body. You can run compared to somebody like, say, myself. Now you're going to run with Usain Bolt. He says to you, Samson, I know you are not up to my standard. So for the next 2 years, anytime we are going to run, I'll let you start at 50 meters. But I'm giving you 2 years or 3 years to put yourself into shape, so that the next time we are going to run, all of us will start at 100 meters. And then all the time that has been given to you, you are not able to put yourself into shape. So Usain Bolt says to you, Samson, the 2 years or 3 years or 10 years I gave you are up. So now you and me, we have to start from 100 meters. And you say no, because you have not prepared. A lot of the anger is because of the lack of preparation by leadership across West Africa, since we're talking about West Africa. Look, it didn't start today. It started from the 60s. They called it Lome 1. They came to Lome 2. They came to Cotonou 1. They came to Cotonou 2. Now, all of these Lome 1 and 2 and 3 and Cotonou 1 and 2 and 3 are what we call preferential trade agreements. Preferential trade agreement means that we would give you preferential treatment. Europe said to our people that we would give you preferential treatment because we recognize that you are weak economies. It started in the 60s. So over the period, they've been giving us preferential treatment. We export everything except arms to the European Union. They don't give us quantity. They don't give us duty. Free. Samson, I can tell you, we only are able to export only about 4 or 5. When they've said you can export everything that you want. But we could not develop the capacity to develop products to export. Now, there's something that we call the WTO, which is the World Trade Organization. The WTO says that preferential treatment that you give to each other is against WTO rules. Because it's like a WAM. And so you people must change from that preferential trade agreement and come to the WTO rules. So the Europeans said that this Cotonou agreement that gives you preferential trade, preferential treatment, it would expire in 2007. After 2007, we have to revise it so that the trade will be more open and it will be more reciprocal. Reciprocal means that whatever advantage, you are exporting to our economies free of charge, we too should go to export. The time is up since 2007. But we are saying that if we agree to the open trade, because we have not developed the capacity, we will be swamped. Our smallholder agriculture will be swamped by imports from Europe. Our industry is already suffering. It's going to suffer more. Our services are going to be swamped because even legal services will be open to European competition. Everything will be open to European competition and we will suffer. That is the argument that is being made, that we are not prepared. And the reason why I blame ECOWAS all the time, ECOWAS has been in existence for 44 years. 44. I don't know if Haruna is 44.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Nana. Just hold it briefly for me there. And let's go to where it's boiling this morning, and I mean positively. The Tamale Sports Stadium. That's where Araba Kumsing is standing by and just going to give us a little, feed into what is going on there with the NPP's conference.
Maimings and people being killed, and so coming here, there was that concern. But having seen the number of police deployed, I'm unsure. But I have here with me one of the delegates and the spokesperson, minority spokesperson on finance, MP for
Old Tafo.
Old Tafo, yes, that's true, and that's Honorable
Anthony Akutose.
Anthony Akutose, I beg your pardon. He's joined us here to give us his own impressions about today's, or expectations rather, about today's event. Honorable, thank you for joining us here on Joy News. First of all, are you satisfied with the preparations put in place for this event?
So far, what I've seen, I'm impressed. For over 5,000 delegates, I think what I've seen so far, I'm quite impressed. The accommodation was quite good. Meals were quite good. Traffic coming here easy, and my biggest shock was the security presence when I got here. It's going on so smoothly. You get to the entrance, you get down, they screen you, you come in, and so far it's going on very well. We thank the police and the military for doing a good job so far.
Now, organizers tell us that in about 3 hours the event will get underway, voting will start. But as a voter, as a delegate, what factors are you considering in voting for a particular
competent people who are hardworking, who are dedicated to the party, to lead the party to the victory in 2016. I think it's that simple. We have a lot of work to do. We've been in opposition 6 years now, so we need people who know what it takes to win an election.
Some of your colleagues have stuck their necks out and said that the current executive must be overhauled. Do you share that view?
I think we have to be very careful. They were our executives for the last election. If they have not done well, the voters will decide, but we should not lambast them for the work they've done. We are all part of the system. We all lost, if that's what they're trying to say. So I will not just come and criticize the old executive. Let the delegates decide who they want to be. Our next executive, and we'll get on. Whoever is elected, the entire party machinery should fall behind them. This is not the time to criticize. Let people use their mind, their own conscience to do what is best for the party.
Now, we know that there are various factions in the party. People have their preferences. But one thing that there's consensus on is the need for the party to be unified after today's event. Do you think that is happening? That is going to happen?
We've had polling station elections. We have constituency elections. We've had regional elections. This is the national. Any election, there are about to be differences. But once it's over, we all go along and there's only one party. The NPP party. So anybody that does anything, it doesn't matter.
The reason why I'm asking this is because people have warned that if certain people are elected to certain positions, the party will be fractured after today's event.
I think those are the pessimists. I believe that whoever is elected, the party will be stronger.
All right. Thank you very much. Minority spokesperson on.
All right, so you've just been watching Araba Kumsin, news editor Joy News, and also you've just seen Gifty Ando appear there, Joy Multi TV, and they are there at the grounds together with an army of our reporters, and they're going to bring us up to speed with what is going on there. As we have been told, some 3 hours time, things will gather real momentum at the grounds. Now, before we move on to the Bost matter, there are a few questions that have come in, and I'd like to put it to the minister, if we can address them briefly. I'm sure you know Lloyd Amoa. He says, is Haruna Idrisu the spokesperson for the EU, or he's the Minister for Trade for our republic? His analysis is not sharp enough. If Ghana sends 40% of our exports to the EU, and if by not signing we lose this 40%, the challenge will be to find new areas of export. Necessity is the mother of invention. This minister is shocking me totally. And he's saying that you sit there saying that since 2007, we have not done any financial impact analysis. He thinks that is inexcusable. And how long have you been in office that you've not been able to do this? And we're talking about this. And there is Elvis Dako, who says, can you tell us how much benefit has accrued to Ghana since the country initialed the interim agreement, so that we can use that to compare?
Yeah, thank you. I may not have the exact statistics, but certainly I was not minister in 2007.
Certainly.
When the interim EPA was initialed. I was not in government at the time. But that is not to suggest that government did not engage. Because I remember that in a number of budget statements, these things were presented as part of government.
But you are admitting that since you became minister, you've not vetted your mind to the need for a financial impact analysis.
We have not conducted it. That is not to say that we have not engaged. My predecessor minister, and now Minister for Foreign Affairs, engaged. In fact, even last year, the Economic Justice Network had a forum at TUC. That is part of the engagement at their request. But it is, and then saying that Haruna is speaking for the EU. I have a duty to share with the Ghanaian public matters of fact. And the EU on this side is saying that deadline 2014. It is not Haruna Idrisu who is suggesting that. Now, I should also even add that there is a moratorium between 2015 and 2019. So even if you sign onto an EPA, you have 5 years preparatory period.
Okay.
We will take a decision which is in our best national interest. We will have a national forum.
The Constitution imposes that obligation on you. It ought to be in the best national interest.
Yeah, it
was supposed to be a brief.
And then he says new market. I didn't borrow the words from him when I said that we should be seeking to diversify the direction of our exports.
Okay.
That's a new market. I even gave you the example of China. But you cannot achieve that in a month or even in a year.
Okay. Akumi, I'm sorry, but I cut you. Can you just finish up on your point?
Well, now, like Kweku said, we are faced with the issue. We've sat back, slept on our jobs, and now we've been faced with a reality. If we allow the Europeans 75% access to our market, a lot of our market economic operations will be swamped. Totally. From agriculture to industry through services. I think we should come together because it doesn't even seem like we are together. Even in West Africa, Nigeria is standing here, Ghana is standing here, Cote d'Ivoire is standing there.
He has explained to you that the difference is not about not signing.
I'm coming to it.
Yeah.
Say, first have a united front. Because you are dealing with the European nations from a weak position. They are together. How many countries there? About 20 countries. And then you are standing there as Ghana, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire. They will play you a small fry. So first we should try and get to a common position. We should beg them, if it comes to it, that a 75 market access, maybe they should start with 30. And we should take a lesson from this and build up our capacity.
Nana, you're not being realistic. 30.
Even in 2007,
you're not going to get that.
You gave them 80% as a government.
No.
2000.
No, but you know you're not going to get 30.
Do they have 80% today? They don't have anything. We're still negotiating.
In Ghana, interim EPA was 80%. Then
okay.
I don't want it to be.
Gentlemen, okay.
Do they have 80% today?
Interim EPA, which govern our relationship since 2008.
But you know nothing has been signed.
Can give them 80% market access.
It is not true. Because as you and I speak, nothing.
An interim EPA.
Can I finish?
Ask your former minister
Can I
for
finish?
trade.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
Yeah.
As we speak, there is no final agreement.
Yes.
So when you say we give them 80%, it's like they have 80% access to our market.
No, but at the time, it is true, factual, that it was 80%.
It's 80%
now we have to move on.
Yeah. Now we said that we will not sign it because we are not sure of what we are getting.
Okay.
So there's no final agreement as we speak. Now I'm saying that let us take a lesson from this. Let us be more serious with economic integration in West Africa, so that we have a single market.
Okay, Nana, thank you.
And then develop our capacity. Then we can face the Europeans on an equal footing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your messages and your questions are so welcome. We still have our eyes at the Tamale Sports Stadium, but we are moving now to the issue of the Bost and it's giving out parts of its management to, as it were, to foreign entity to manage. And as you are aware, also the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors are up in arms against that move. In fact, they are initiating a court action to put an injunction on the process because they have a number of issues that we'll share with you shortly. And the questioning is that they are also asking very serious questions, that we have a president who just recently went to Parliament and said, let's grow our own, let's give indigenous businesses the opportunity to make money in this country and distribute the wealth within the country. He went to the independence celebration, repeated the point, and at the same time, he's got his lieutenants who are leading a process to give out a critical national installation like the Bost to a foreign entity. The problem again is that this foreign Nigerian entity, TSL, doesn't have the capacity that they have. Each individual distributors, or what you call the OLCs in the country, when you take them separately, can equal them, and they are ready to put together a consortium and take on that job. So what is going on? We'll be talking to the chief executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors shortly, Senya Hosi. But I'd like to start with Abdul Malik. I'm sure that you have followed their arguments so far.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Indeed. My boys published 2 stories in our last Monday's edition. One was based on what the bulk oil distributors were saying, and then there was a reaction from the Bost management as well.
Right.
Quite interesting perspectives that were brought to bear based on those 2 stories.
Right.
I think it's clear that, can I call them BDCs for short? That's the bulk oil distributors companies.
Right.
In principle, if you read their statement, I have a copy of a statement dated 20th March 2014 here. It's addressed to the Minister of Energy and Petroleum and the board chairman of the bulk oil.
I think what you have is a petition.
Yes, it's the petition.
Yeah.
You know, petition, that's right. Outsourcing of the management of Bost storage facilities. The very first paragraph indicates that they are in principle for the outsourcing of the management of its tank farm and wish to applaud the initiative by the board and management.
Right.
So in context, in terms of principle, they are not against the idea of outsourcing the management.
Right.
But I think their problem is that it should have gone with the principle or the policy of local content in consonance with that policy. They are not too happy that it's gone to a foreign entity. And then it appears they are suggesting that it wasn't a competitive tendering, that is,
it wasn't
sole sourcing. Even though the management of Bost are denying that. If you read the story they gave us, they were insisting that the manager said he met almost all the bulk distribution.
They say that's a lie.
I find that difficult to assimilate. Let me be honest with you, because this is such a public thing, and I don't see how the bulk guys would deny such a thing. So it is obvious, and they are pointing out the president's latest emphasis on buy made in Ghana goods, go made in Ghana services, and the need for local content. They have a very powerful, convincing, almost very convincing argument.
Position, yeah.
Yes, to be honest with you, instinctively, I am impressed by their submission and would want another look to be taken. Even though the management of Bost are saying this is a pilot project, is for 12 months, and they make a certain case that the company, the Bost, is riddled with debts, and that this is one of the strategies to redeem Bost of its debts. But our boys, that's our locals, are saying we are capable, we have the capacity, and they give evidence of the investment they have made in the infrastructure and all this, and that these things were encouraged by the state or government, and they have built that level of capacity only to be dribbled,
sort of
sidestepped. Maybe that's a better word, So, to be honest, perhaps in this case, I'm prepared to vote for the bulk oil distributors. And I would suggest that we do a review of this matter.
They make some points. They say that that's the bulk distributors company, that's BDC. They say that BDC imports accounted for 65% of product supplies to the country for the period 2006 and 2012. In 2011, 2012 and 2013, BDCs accounted for over 98% of petroleum product supplies to the market. They say their function is the reason for the absence of shortages. Consequent to the deregulation policy, BDCs have invested over $180 million in the construction and operation of tank farms and combined capacity in excess of 250 million litres. Additional investments are ongoing to increase private capacity to over 350 million litres. BDCs, all mainly Ghanaian-owned companies, have a proven capacity and competence in managing such facilities and have proven ability to run a sector hitherto controlled by foreign companies. Now, just a bit of what their position is in perspective. They say that they believe in the need to turn around Bost and are not opposed to the intent to outsource the management of the terminals. They are Ghanaians and have been made to invest in competence and experience in managing terminals professionally. They have earned the right to be given priority consideration in utilizing the opportunity to turn around Bost and facilitate their trade locally and in the Sahelian markets. They raise various other issues.
Yeah,
I was coming to Arena. Yes, quickly.
Yeah, and this might sound a bit diversional, but I think there is this trend that government ought to watch, because I smell the same thing when it comes to the Takoradi port thing. Is it the Longhorn port saga? You know, there's also the same thing that GPHA appears to be being sidelined. $250 million US that we've invested for the expansion of Takoradi port. If we are not careful, we'll finish and virtually hand over that facility to Longhorn to manage and, you know, supervise. And there's a little problem that we got to be very careful. We must match our words with action. We want local content. I am not one of those who's from ideological position will say that get all foreign entities out. It's not possible. It's not even realistic. So I think that we have to be very careful with how we are going about some of these things. The same thing may be happening on the Takoradi port thing. Is it at Twabo Freeport?
Yeah,
right.
The oil and gas.
Yes. So and again, they say this particular TLC company operates 3 terminals in Nigeria with combined capacity of 55 million liters. This is in no way comparable to the proven capacity of indigenous Ghanaian companies, which amount to over 250 million liters. What's wrong? Why choose them over them?
Samson, I can only support Kweku that when it comes to the principle of domestication or indigenization, absolutely for it. And I think that from what I have read so far, they have petitioned the minister, they've petitioned the board chairman, and they are seeking to petition the president. The assurance I can give is that government will review those petitions and will engage all the stakeholders, including the BDCs, in order to resolve this matter. I also do agree with them.
They are only bringing to our attention the petition that was put in long ago, which has not been responded to.
It doesn't matter. I sit in government. Until it broke out in the media, I did not have any official appreciation of the issue at the level of government. So I'm sure once the petition gets to the president, he would invite the Minister for Energy, the board and management of Bost to give explanation, one, even on the process. And the president would want to satisfy himself whether they went through due process and whether they have held values of transparency in the award of the contract. Then 2, government will also review the merit of the relationship, whether or not Bost ought to be entering into a relationship with TSL or not, will also be a matter that the petition will put on board. What I do know, for which I agree with the chamber, is that there's been a lot of investment over the years. At least I know for fuel trade, I know for Chase Petroleum, that they have all invested in building tanks farm. I also know of a company, I think John Taylor's group, also investing in that particular area. So if they raise issues, it's for government to examine them and then take a decision. Now, what I do know, which will relate me to the second leg of the issue, is that Bost is established by law. It was supposed to be responsible for the strategic storage of strategic oil reserves for government. To that extent, a pipe was laid from here up to Bupe. In fact, I used to serve on the Committee on Mines and Energy, even up to Savulugu and then to Bolga. You will see all those tank farms clearly built. So the chamber is saying that what use are you going to subject this tank farm to? Right. We want to know, have you given us an opportunity as local entities to leverage on that infrastructure, let alone give it to the Nigerians? But like I stated, once there is a petition, I would not be conclusive in terms of my interrogation of the matter, except to assure that government will examine the merits of the contract, the process to which the contract was cured, and will take decisions that are appropriate. Now, let me come to what Kweku have raised, and it's becoming a tendency.
We don't know, I do not know, and I was seeking to, if I got the gentleman to ask, that we don't know what stage you are with this contract. we are aware of terminations of contracts that have led to
With
judgment debt,
absolutely,
and we are being saddled with judgment debt here and there. And I'm just speaking information also very reliably that there is a new award delivered by the International Tribunal in Hague that is slapped us with bank switch. That is slapped us with some 73 million United States dollars.
Yeah, occasioned debt, not at all.
Kuku is being cynical. Yes, you don't know what he's saying.
Yes. He's correcting an issue which had to do with running issues between the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, the GCNet system, and others. We'll come to that specific issue. For instance, SCADA systems and CCTV. Okay. I'm aware that we have supported national security.
So briefly, sorry, but very briefly. Senor Hosi is on the line. He is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Distributors, Oil Distributors. Thank you very much, Senor. Good morning.
Good morning, Samson.
Yes, good to have you. I have sought to canvass some of the points that you already put out there in the public domain, but what do you know? What is the extent of this particular contract with the Nigerian company, TSL?
Before I answer, I really want to thank Honorable Haruna Idrisu and all the panelists for their support. For us, it's a national crusade to put a Ghanaian in the fore of the development of our country and in aspects that we have proven capacity. So I'm really pleased that this subject is not being politicized whatsoever. So really big thanks to your entire panelists there. As far as we know, it was also confirmed yesterday that this contract has been signed. It's just that I think our case is out there. It's very obvious. We think that we believe we have capacity. We've proven the capacity. We also think that the contract that was engaging is possibly illegal, and to which we filed a suit in court because TSL is not licensed by the National Petroleum Authority. Have you filed, or you are yet to file? Because we got the information that you have instructed your lawyers to do so. We actually have filed. We filed on Thursday.
I see. Okay.
But we've commenced engagements with government again, and we hope that with the support of our Honorable Haruna Idrisu and others who seem sympathetic to our case, we trust we should be able to resolve this amicably amongst us. It's not a subject we really want to prosecute in court, in all honesty, but it's an option that we have to call on, because our concern seems not to be addressed whatsoever. But I'm really happy and pleased to hear from Honorable Haruna Idrisu that government will take this up very seriously.
All right. Now, you have already taken almost all the steps. You have done petitions, you have gone to the press, and now you are in court, and you are getting assurances that your issue will be looked into. You have sufficient trust that you will get something out of this?
Samson, our president has spoken time and time again about the confidence he has in the Ghanaian. So if we are proving it, why not invest in it some more? We need to build local champions. The only way we can build local champions is help them grow. If you have a company like TSL with 55 million liters, can manage the facility 420 million liters. Tomorrow, what's on ECV? 475 million liters. Then those who have 80 million liters here will still hold 80 million, and these are indigenous Ghanaians. We go out there in another country wanting to compete, TSL will look better than the Ghanaian. Who promoted TSL? Us. It's disappointing when we try to promote the CVs and then prosecute the interests of other foreign companies at the expense of our own people who have proven capacity while using the taxpayers' money. I think we should believe in ourselves as a people. We need to believe in ourselves as a people because we
what do you say to the church that you are not being truthful when you say that you were not consulted prior to this? Because we are told that the opportunities were offered you before eventually TSL was selected.
I think yesterday at the meeting with Bost and also the minister, it was obvious that we were not brought to that table to partake in it. We got to know it was done. And as to whether they invited Ghanaian companies who don't have capacity or not, we don't really know. But I think this is being resolved. But that is not really the case on our side. None of our members were invited or brought to the table to partake in it. And like I said, we are willing to come together in a consortium for us to run this together. Let every body within the BDC fraternity have the opportunity to partake in this investment opportunity and facilitate their trade activities. Hopefully, we should build giants out of this. And I just want to remind you guys, look at the major industries we have in Ghana. Commerce is hardly controlled by us. Mine is hardly dominated by us. You look at even the ports, the key services there, hardly dominated by us. This has been one industry that has
Senor, the bit about the meeting or the opportunity offered that was not taken and then eventually given to the Nigerians, I want to know, are there not other entities that do not belong to your chamber who probably are those that were consulted?
Absolutely none. Because those who have tank farms are known. Investments in tank farms are quite heavy. For you to be able to do it, you should really have some clear direction on throughput. So BDC generate the throughput, and by policy, we were taxed to invest in them, and we have. Help us yield the most returns possible. Then we can do big things. Kerosene resellers move on to become oil marketing companies like Star Oil, Allied Oil. We've moved on from that to become import agents. From import agents, now we are bulk distributing companies, importing ourselves. We are owning our own facilities. From there, what next? We become major traders, competing with the likes of Vitol and Trafigura. Ghanaians have the capacity. Let's invest in them. Let's promote them. We are competent.
Okay. All right, Senor, thank you very much. Senor Hosi is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, and they are the ones who are petitioning, and they appear to be getting some very good signals, and he's very excited about you especially. Yep.
No, certainly on matters of local content, I have an obligation to be supportive. But let me just state that government has taken a number of far-reaching decisions within the energy sector, which should assure local players of participation backed by law. The local content regulation was submitted by the Minister for Energy, subsequently passed by Parliament, which allows them a role over a phased period. And a lot has been done in that area in terms of Ghanaian participation. I'm also aware that government has laid before Parliament a review of the Public Procurement Act, which is seeking to give margin of preference to local companies when it comes to bidding. What is significant for me today is whether or not TSL is even registered with an MPA is a major issue that we must follow through and ensure that they come within the regulatory ambit of the National Petroleum Authority. I should now discuss a matter which Kweku has raised, Lonro. I'm aware, and you see, when you speak, then it is said that you are speaking for this company. Lonro made a proposal to government to invest $600 million over a certain period in developing an oil and gas free port in Atuabu in the western region of Ghana. Government set up a committee of 4 ministers, Attorney General, Minister of Finance, Minister of Transport, Minister of Trade and Industry, to review the Lonro request. Indeed, and Samson, this will interest you, in the original Lonro request to government, they wanted perpetuity for this investment of $600 million. And we said, no way. You must capitalize it. Let's see how much period of time you need to amortize on your investment. We did a 10-15-year period, maybe initial investment up to 10 years. They want to recoup their money in 25 years. So the committee recommended that, look, we can only give you up to 25 years, even if you invested the $600 million. But exclusivity, it will not affect investment of the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority. And like Kweku is rightly
law 160.
Yes.
How do you reconcile what you are doing with Lonro to that law?
What's the import of that law?
No, I've heard the argument.
But what's the import of that law?
Yeah.
The GPHA has the sole right to manage ports. Am I right?
Yes, yes, under the law.
But you haven't reviewed the law.
No, Kweku is.
I'm only seeking information.
Yeah. And then what is a free port? In fact, with free port, they will finally come back to the Minister of Trade as chairman of the Free Zones Board to declare that area.
How would GPHA monitor the income revenue that Lonro would make?
Kweku,
there's no such provision
in the agreement. I have no problem. I just wanted to answer one issue you raised.
Okay.
In one of the meetings in Akusumbu, the Minister for Transport and the Chief Executive of Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority sat through the meeting in discussing this particular concept. I'm aware that there was a strong protest letter signed by the chairman of the then board, Alhaji Abubakar Ismaili, which was brought to the attention of the ministerial committee which was examining this. I'm just saying this so that you appreciate the kind of discourse which went on before even Lonro was submitted to the Minister of Finance and to Cabinet for us to fine-tune aspects of it. But I agree with you. To what extent can Parliament, NGPHA, ensure that whatever free port you are building is subjected to the regulatory action of Ghana Ports and
That's his concern.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm saying I have no difficulty with that.
Thank you.
But I'm saying that the declaration of the free port status will be on the recommendations of the Minister of Trade. As chairman of the Free Zones Board, the president will then declare through an executive instrument. He will so declare it.
Thank you.
But I agree that we'll
thank
take
you. Let me pick Nana briefly on this.
Consultation
thank you,
and in the discussion,
thank you.
They've been part of it.
Thank you. It's been very useful having you to share this light on this particular subject also. Now, Nana, what do you say about the position that the group has?
Well, Samson, I find it difficult to believe that these giving away the management of our oil reserves to a foreign company didn't go to cabinet. It didn't go to cabinet?
Which one?
The Bost. Yes.
I serve on cabinet. I am not apprised with it at that level, at that governance structure. We have not looked at it. Maybe at the next cabinet session, but I haven't been part of it. In any case, if I were part, I would not disclose. But it's not been a subject for discussion at the level of cabinet.
But obviously, this agreement has been signed. And such an important decision, the Minister for Energy and the Minister for did not bring a memorandum to cabinet. I'm surprised because this should be discussed at the level of cabinet. It's a very major undertaking. Our oil reserves, the management of it, being given out, and there's no memorandum to cabinet for cabinet to take a decision. I am.
But the information we have so far, obviously, this is some embarrassment to the managers, to government as well. Should somebody be answering some questions, probably resigning?
I'm saying that at the very least, this should be in the form of a memorandum from the Minister for Energy to cabinet before a decision is taken. And for cabinet ministers not to know about this, I mean, it's difficult to understand.
He's under secrecy, oath of secrecy.
No, I'm not saying
and to disclose matters that have come before cabinet.
He says he doesn't know about it, which means this matter did not get to cabinet.
And even if he knew, he's not going to disclose.
No, I'm not asking him to disclose details of discussions in cabinet.
The awareness.
What he's told us clearly is that this did not get to cabinet.
As far as he knows.
And for me, it is serious that such a decision can be taken at the ministerial level. What to do with the management of our oil reserves. I mean, I think it's terrible, and it should have gone to cabinet at the very least. Now, the minister is talking about the things that have been done, local content law, procurement law. In this country, Samson, what law don't we have? Every law anywhere in the world, we have it in Ghana.
Right.
So it is not about the laws. It is about policy actions to fulfill the laws. That is what we don't do.
Yeah,
but you have to look.
The matter of government is the policy and the program. It's working very well, to be honest with you.
Kweku, so why do we have this matter on our hands? Because we have local content law, we have... but that's exactly what I'm saying. It's an aberration. Where there is no capacity, like the upstream, you can understand. Where maybe there's no financial capacity, technical capacity, you can understand. But where there is capacity, and if you look at the write-up that the BDCs have, they have demonstrated capacity exceeding that of the foreign company.
I see.
And this was sole sourcing, so they did not even have the chance to bid. You see, this encapsulates the problems that we have. It encapsulates what we have with EPA and everything else. We don't support our own.
EPA sole source,
I'm saying that you see, I'm saying that, you see, the thing is not just about your government. Because I said ECOWAS has been there for 44 years. And they go and tell you can't do a currency union. You can't do free trade among yourselves. So you remain forever dependent on other people.
So that's why I declare ECOWAS useless?
Absolutely. Absolutely useless. I still maintain it.
What did you say when President Kufuor was elected?
No, it's not about Kufuor. It's not about Mahama. I'm saying that
he could have done better.
Absolutely.
Done better, but
far
it
better.
Useless.
Absolutely. But what have they done?
No, we are saying that you can't say it's useless.
Can I go?
You can say they are challenged. They have not met their set targets.
Okay.
But this declaration only today by you marks of a lack of appreciation of the challenge of a regional union. Even the EU today has challenges. Why is the UK not part of?
All right, just hold on briefly. Okay, Kofi Adams is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. He joins us with some very special information as far as this deal is concerned. Kofi, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning and thank you very much for
this. What is this exclusive information that we are missing that you want to share with us?
First and foremost, I'm not really contributing as a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, but as a member of the board who has quite a lot of information on this subject matter that is being discussed. Many parts which has been left out between the relationship of the contractual agreement between Bost and TSL and what the BDCs have brought up now. To Nana Komia, before this current management took effect, there has been in existence an outsourcing contract to manage the Bost farm tanks that has been given to Sahara long before even 2009. So the issue of outsourcing the tank farms of Bost to an entity to run, whether local or foreign, has been taking long.
At that time, the plausible excuse I can find immediately is that at that time the capacity of the locals had not been developed.
And they didn't process. That's a good question. So you moved on and asked why TSL. The decision by management and board was that because that strategic role was going to be a gatekeeping role, we did not want any BDC to be responsible for playing a gatekeeping role. Other than that, the one that wins will disadvantage the other ones. Because Bost has infrastructure spread across the country. We have farm tanks at Mami Water, at Kosombo, the Accra Plains, we have some in Wipe, and we also have Bolga, which has not operated for a very long time and which we want to operate.
So is the reason you sold source and didn't consult them at all?
There was a serious consultation.
They say that's not true.
The interest, if you allow me to flow, you will get the drift. The interest of the BDCs, following the interactions they had with Bost, has been to pay the debt over them. Debt as a result of losses that have been incurred in the running of these tank farms. The BDCs bring their products, they come to put in the tank farms that belong to Bost. And Bost is supposed to take care of it for them to come and collect it later. And as a result of losses, Bost owe BDC to the tune of almost 35 million Ghana cedi. And that is the interest of the BDCs, that money must be paid. So what did Bost do? Let's pass on the risk of the losses to a management entity. Let them play a watchman role. It's not like they are holding a BDC license. The TSL is not a BDC. They are not coming to operate as a BDC.
Right, but Kofi, your major reason for not wanting to use the BDCs, is that not resolved by a consortium? Because that's what they say. They say they are ready to put together a consortium to manage it.
It is never resolved by a consortium.
How?
It can never be resolved by a consortium.
Can you explain that?
It cannot be resolved because a consortium of who and who? A consortium of who and who?
A consortium of the group that you think when they come individually, one would disadvantage the other.
And who and who will be involved? We are not the ones to go and put that together. The big guys will take advantage, and the smaller ones that we want to encourage to also grow will not be able to grow. In this arrangement, it is going to favor the BDCs. The BDCs now can bring their products, and they are assured that their product would not be lost. The losses that we are finding in the tank farms would not be there. If any loss occurs, TSL will take charge of that. They will pay for any loss. So the BDCs will be assured that 35 million they are chasing will no longer happen.
I see. But in that process, do you find that they're going through the sole sourcing? The Procurement Act is very clear about how you go about sole sourcing, and you may be found wanting in that regard because they are going to court, and that's one of the major reasons. And again, again, TSL is not licensed by the National Petroleum Authority. That's also another big issue, isn't it?
The Bost wrote to MP and indicated clearly what TSL was coming to do and wanted to find out whether they needed licensing to be able to play that role. The MP responded positively that no, TSL, the kind of role they are coming to play, that they don't need license to perform that role. So Bost did not just get up there and go to pick a company to come and do this. They went through due process.
Okay, and you went through this process without the benefit of cabinet knowing what you were doing?
Oh, of course, because it isn't a cabinet decision. We are doing as if a company established by law should always resort to management. This is management decision.
All right.
This needs only ministerial approval.
Okay.
And then the board grants it, and it goes through. It's not something that should be tabled. And also to Nana Komia, it is not the management of our reserves as our all reserves. Bost is established to be able to keep some reserves. That is what Bost is supposed to do, and that is what we want to do with the introduction of TSL. So please, let's put all the facts out there. I believe that the board will meet, will look at all the issues that have been put out there, and will respond appropriately.
Okay.
And I'm happy the way Honorable Haroda put it, that government will listen to the petition, they will listen to both sides and see, evaluate the sense, the reason, whether due process was followed, why TSL, and all those issues.
Post facto, and you know, many times in Ghana, we don't really go back and change much.
No. If government feels that something has been illegally done, of course, government reserves the right to ask the board to look into it.
And this is where a contract has already been signed, and I was raising the question of judgment that, you know.
You know what? I was telling you earlier that a contract existed that was signed under the NPP and outsourcing both facilities to Sahara. This management invited Sahara and had a gentleman agreement that, look, we didn't want a BDC holder to run the system because it would disadvantage others.
All right.
If you could write withdrawing your interest so that issue of judgment, debt, and the rest won't come. So there was already a license that we have to convince them because they are a BDC group to personally withdraw, which they have done.
Okay, but you see, just before you go, I asked you, you said the procurement was clean, but the TSL, are they registered licensed with the NPA, or are they not supposed to?
I've just told you that the role they are playing in terms of the oil industry, they are not supposed to be licensed, but they are registered. It's a subsidiary. They are registered in this country.
I see. Well, that matter is actually before the court now. I'm sure that when you file your defenses and everything else, you pursue that one. Kofi, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your intervention.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. All right. Kofi Adams is a member of the board of the entity, and he's also the Deputy General Secretary. I didn't know as well. But he appears to have sufficient good information that has assisted our discussion so far.
I'm only sure
I'm taking a break at this point, and then we'll return. Okay, finish in a minute or two.
You see, the boss is supposed to manage our strategic oil reserves. So Kofi Adams should not give the impression that it's just some minor operation that we are talking about. Now, something, you see, there are so many instances where we haven't or we do not support our own. And I'm happy the Minister for Trade is here. Look at what is happening to our textile companies. Look at what is happening to our, the fruit juice, where they show clearly that there's dumping, there's under-invoicing. And yet there is no response, whether from customs, whether from government. And they continue to suffer. The same with the testers. You have this task force that was making major impact in reducing the smuggling. And yet they were withdrawn. We said it is Christmas. And the local industry continues to suffer. So we have all the laws. But taking action implementing the laws is what we lack. And this Bost thing, the local players say they have the capacity. The instinct of government should be, do we have local capacity? It is the job of government to organize or to facilitate the organization of the local capacity so they can perform the tasks that are being given out to foreign companies. That should be the basic aim of government.
Thank you very much, Nana Kumia, immediate past communications director of the New Patriotic Party that is in Tamale this morning, electing new executive officers, national officers. Haruna Idrisu is the trade minister and is an MP, and Abdul Malik Kubako Jr. is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. The show is brought to you, as always, by Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. So you need to join Lipton Tea on the journey of refreshment and vitality. That's the world's favorite hot tea brand, and it gives you the needed level of alertness to start your day. So take another look at your day and begin with a cup of Lipton Tea for natural refreshment in mind and in body. Sasso insecticide spray. Ekum ntuntum preko. Ana wankasa kum ntuntum preko. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm coming. Let me pay. I mean, those who are paying for the show. MTN, that's your new world. Welcome to the new world. That's everywhere you go. And for the first time in Ghana, you choose how much you pay for your calls and data. Hook up with anyone in the biggest family for 4 pesos, 3 pesos, 2, or even 1 peso per minute. That's right. Use your phone 1 peso style. That's all up to you. Plus, each option comes with amazing internet and IDD discounts. Even calls to other networks are discounted at Bin, Waha, and Kasa. Now, with just 2 Ghana cedis daily subscription, you pay a cool 1 peso for your calls. Dial *315# and now to choose the offer that suits you. Enjoy daily subscriptions from as low as 50 Ghana pesos. So go on, start enjoying long conversations and long hours of browsing non-stop only with MTN Abing Waha. Visit their Facebook and Twitter pages to participate in their daily Abing Waha competition. Welcome to the new world, MTN, everywhere you go. The show also is brought to you by Rata Motors. You get the best vehicles for the cheapest prices. Just go to Lagos Avenue near the GT Bank and they will attend to you. Star Assurance, that is your solid partner. They are your CIMG Insurance Company of the year 2012, and their team is dedicated to making sure that they are providing tailor-made insurance policies for you. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. We will be right back after this break. All right, you're welcome back. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, Newsfile. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini, and let me just bring to your attention a few of the text messages that you are sending in. Share them with the rest of the world. Now, you know, Kofi Adams has said earlier that there will be no need to license that the Nigerian entity, so to speak, but our attention is being drawn to Article 11 of the MPA Act, which says that a person shall not engage in, you know, commercial activity in the downstream in that industry. So it appears that maybe let's allow them to go to court and finish it up, and let's see. Well, unless it has license from the MPA, so that's the requirement, that you cannot engage in any commercial activity downstream in that industry unless you have license from the MPA. Before I get to your text messages, let me tell you what we're going to look at right after that. And this is the way I put it, that Joy FM may have ignored or breached professional auditing rules to serialize an incomplete audit report. But can we expect any substantial change in the final report? An interim draft audit that finds no one single act of good corporate administration practice, but unprofessional, unlawful, wasteful conduct and acts that smack of incompetence, thievery, and rape of the state in a project that is meant to alleviate poverty among the poorest of the Ghanaian society. I'm talking about the sad story of Sada. We'll look at that briefly, particularly because of some other challenge or issue, but we'll also be asking about the $305 million Rich Hospital refurbishment project, overpriced and corruption, or a misreading minority legislators on a mischief mission. The minority insists on a review of the contract to UK-based Crown agents' estimated realistic price of $162 million instead of the 305. It appears the minority may have gotten their maths wrong because on the face of the 13th August 2012 order paper laid in Parliament, government sought approval for a loan of 500 million, is it, from the Export-Import Bank of USA and another 92,500,000 from the HSBC Bank of the UK. When you put that together, you should get a total of 250 million. So is the minority wrong when it says the amount should be 305? But even that, we can still look at the question whether that is still on the high side compared to the Crown agent's estimate of 162 million. Thank you very much. Your comments, your views are welcome through the platforms that I've already announced. Now, a few of your messages here, and this one, you didn't identify yourself. You say, good morning to you and your panel. Best wishes to your dad, Haruna. Okay. I wish NPP a fruitful and peaceful Congress in Tamale. I pray that Nanado will be later elected as the flag bearer. That's not a business for today. What happens when ECOWAS does not reach an agreement before October this year? What are we doing to ensure there is no disruption to trade with Europe? This is George in Legon. Newsfile, don't miss a discussion on the Rich Hospital shortage. Upon Alex, you're right, we can't miss that. Richard Youngfo from Media said, Sam, I have had very reliable information to the effect that there has been some, okay, I'm not going to take this one, you're talking about some security matters elsewhere. I'll try and get my production people to get in touch with you to screen that. This one says, NPP will be back from Tamale as one people, says the Lord of hosts. Amen. This is coming from Pando, Peter in Pando. And then this is George's message, which I have read. I'll read the last two messages. This one, Mahama's administration will deliver to the good people of Ghana. I hope and pray that the good Lord will see and guide us through. God bless our homeland, Ghana. This one too says, please, can you use your medium to find out from NIA when they are going to pay us? Okay, NIA still owe some people. They want their money. Please pay them. It's been quite a while. So please make sure you are paying them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's go to the issues that I had sought to raise earlier. I'm talking about the Sada matter, first of all. And we are being joined now by Dr. Mausi Mawia. Yeah. You joined us the first time some time ago. Yeah. Sorry, the full name again is
Zakaria
Mawia.
Yeah.
He's a professional in the area of policy analysis when it comes to subjects like what we are going to raise. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I understand that you were in flight. You just got down here from Kumasi.
That's correct.
Thank you very much for joining us indeed.
Okay.
Now, I'd like first of all to go to the phone lines, and we're going to be speaking to Yoni Kolendi. He is a private legal practitioner, and we called him up because of a point in the Sada matter. Now, this is the point that I'm referring to. You may have heard Professor Ken Natefa say emphatically that what's the name of the bank again? The Stanbic Bank boss was in clear conflict of interest when he allowed, as chairman of Sada board and as MD of the bank, when he allowed for the board to put its money, that is almost 75,000 Ghana cedis, million, right? Yeah, into a call account, which is not an investment account, so to speak. You know, the interim audit report that I'm referring to, I call it interim because that's my understanding of it. The report, and I just want to refer to a paragraph. Paragraph 2 of the report says, our observations during the audit have been discussed with management and their responses incorporated in this management letter. But there is an instructive paragraph 3, which says, we shall be grateful to have your response within 30 days of receipt of this management letter as stipulated in section 29(1) of the Audit Service Act. And this is actually a management letter on the back of the audit that was sent to the acting chief executive officer of the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority. And this has been serialized on Joy FM. There is an aspect that speaks about the Sada, the money that was put into that account, and that was not a wise process. This is what they said. They said, we noted that on 20th December 2012, an amount of 74,500 Ghana cedis was invested in a call account at the Stanbic Bank, Mervinpick branch in Accra. Management, however, failed to produce the investment certificate covering the deposit to authenticate the transaction. We asked the chief executive to obtain the investment certificate from the bank, as well as the interest that had accrued so far from the investment for our examination. And they also went on to say that as far as they are concerned, that process was not the best. Sada could have put its money in a better profit-yielding, facility. Good morning to you, Yoni Kolendi, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Samson.
Right. We've had the discussion in respect of the questions of conflict of interest. Do you share a different view that, like Professor Kenatefa says, because Alhassan Andani is the chairman of the Sada board, and at the same time, and is the MD of Stanbic Bank, there is a clear conflict of interest. There's no question about it in this particular transaction.
Well, I mean, first of all, and good morning to your listeners and all my big brothers and friends in the studio. Kweku Haruna, you've gone up and forgotten of the which is still here.
That's
first of all, I looked at the text of Prof's statement, and Prof actually predicates that statement with an if and an if, even though he lands on the conclusion that you have imputed to him. That in itself suggests that this is not conclusive. But to make an upfront confession whether this amounts to a conflict, Prof was my colleague in Chambers. Prof's wife is my partner in Chambers. And so
you know, I hope that I'm not conflicted, but to the extent that this is an intellectual exercise in a hugely important matter of public interest.
Right.
There's a basis if one has an intellectual disagreement to go to it. So first of all, you know, the basis of this whole conversation is Article 284. 284 says that a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interests conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office.
Right.
So the issue turns on personal interests. Test is conflicting, which is actual, direct, or likely to conflict, which is likelihood or probability.
All right.
So something first and foremost. Now, then you go to the rules of interpretation. The first and most compelling rule of interpretation is the literal rule, which is that you give the words of the framers of the Constitution their ordinary, everyday meaning to the extent that those words are clear and unambiguous. So, where the framers of the Constitution limit a matter to first personal interest, to actual conflict or likelihood of conflict, you cannot introduce notions of perception or suspicion, because the literal rule requires that you give the words their plain and ordinary meaning as stated by the framers of the Constitution. So, first question: if you drilled it down to the basics, so to the extent that people speak about perceptions, I hold a contrary view. Now, does Mr. Andane have a personal interest in Stanbic Bank? Does he own Stanbic Bank? Is Stanbic Bank his personal property that occasions a personal interest? Now, when you come to whether conflict is actual, because it says conflict or likelihood, to do that evaluation, you've got to look at what is the role of the board and the chair of the board in relation to the kind of decision that was made, whether to place Sada's funds or not to place and where to place. Is it a management function or is it a board function? And if it is a management function, is the chairman of the board the one who takes that decision? You need this to determine whether there's actual conflict or likelihood of conflict. So if there are operational issues, management decisions that make recommendation to a board and the board issues a resolution, then actual conflict or likelihood of conflict on the part of a board chair becomes either non-existent or totally diminished. Now, when you get into Stanbic, assuming that you found in relation to Sada that this was a management decision, Mr. Andane is an executive chair, which I don't think he is. He's a non-executive chair, so he chairs a board of several other people.
Right. Can I ask you this question, and a bit more pointedly?
Yes, sir.
If you were his lawyer, what would have been your advice? That he's chairman of the board, he's ND of Stanbic, what would have been your advice? That he stays away from the Sada board bringing their money into his bank, or what should he do?
You see, I will answer you in a lawyer's way. First of all, the issue doesn't even arise because the law and good governance practice makes room for it. That is why there's a requirement of disclosure, and then there's a requirement of reclusion. It therefore means that it is not in all instances where a matter is connected to you in a remote way that occasions a conflict of interest. Otherwise, it will be a no, and disclosure should not be a good enough medicine for it, and reclusion should not be a good enough medicine for it. But my point is that, is the board chair involved in a management decision where to place the company's funds? If it is, you make a disclosure and you exclude yourself. But ordinarily, where Sada places its funds, I do not know about the internal workings of Sada, but one will be surprised if that management function is performed by a board. So my point is that the question doesn't even arise. But if it did, the law itself and best government practice makes provision for it by saying make a disclosure. Okay, and in appropriate circumstances, recluse yourself. Otherwise, Samson, if you end up in the absurd situation where in a society like ours, where everyone knows someone, everyone is someone's classmate, everyone is someone's friend, no judge can sit in a case. Everyone comes from a tribe. So if you stretch the rule on conflict to include perception and suspicion, and not keep it within the boundaries of actual conflict or likelihood of conflict, you will create a state which will be ungovernable.
I see.
And that will be a repugnant and an absurd interpretation. In any event, the rules of constitutional interpretation doesn't allow you to contemplate even a purposive interpretation unless the literal interpretation leads to an absurdity or a repugnancy.
Okay.
It is not something I'm sure you know. Lord Simmons calls a naked usurpation of the legislative function.
Okay, so sorry, before you take us to a legal class, and not all my audience will be able to appreciate that process. Thank you very much. We just wanted your bit on it to assist us to begin to do the discussing, particularly in respect of the question of conflict of interest. Thank you very much, sir.
Samson, I'm grateful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you indeed.
And my regards.
Right. Now this is what it is. Yes. And I'm sure you are familiar with this so far. The auditors were conclusive in their comments that this was a wrong move because Sada did not stand to benefit.
No, Samson, after listening to my very respected senior in the law, I would only add emphasis for purposes of clarity. And I'm happy that my colleague, who has a long-serving history in Parliament, is here, Nana Akumia. But, Samson, Joy FM must necessarily change your attitude in serializing inconclusive and uncompleted audit report.
Well, that is my interpretation of that audit report.
It is not your interpretation.
I am told by the news team that has it that this is complete.
And I'm saying that
is what I'm
saying that your FM must be circumspect in your work as much as you are holding us responsible and accountable. You should not do so at the cost of your inability to repair damage to integrity and reputation that you may have had in your attempt to serialize uncompleted on matters of law. And I bring you back to Sada. I'll come to Sada and my colleagues will have their take. I'm referring you to the Sada Act. And you want to appreciate conflict of interest even beyond constitutional provisions. And Nana is here. We have as Parliament over the years strengthened what we call the conflict of interest protection clauses in every legislation. I should credit Chairman Sir as one of his specialty. Anytime we are on conflict of interest, a second reading of any bill, including Nana and Co., we pay particular interest. And in respect of Sada, first of all, the question Joy FM should be asking is that one, what is wrong if Sada decided to open a number of bank accounts? I'm not sure Sada has only one bank account and it's only with Stanbic Bank. They probably have more than three bank accounts. Two, even the interim or conclusive audit report, in Joy's word, if it's whether it's conclusive or interim. Do you understand?
The interim is my own interpretation.
This one, I will yield only to Kweku. What was the audit query? The audit query, professionally, was the absence of a certificate of investment. So the audit query is not even on the matter you are raising on conflict of interest. The audit query is that how come that this investment have been made to which we don't have an investment certificate so that we can police what interest is accruing to it. You are imputing wrongdoing to Mr. Alasan Andani, an MD of Stanbic Bank, by virtue of his membership of the Sada board.
Right.
At that board meeting, it provides, and the Sada law provides that disclosure of interest. A member of the board who has an interest in a matter for consideration, and even here, like my senior said, what interest? Did Andani have a personal interest? Certainly no.
Is that a member
he
of
is
the
not
board?
On Sada
he is
board.
The chairman.
No, wait. He is what interest? I just asked you. Okay. Can you answer that? What interest does he have on Sada board? He is serving as a non-executive member of the board, and then read further. Shall not participate in the deliberation of the board in respect of that matter. So even if a matter came with Stanbic Bank, and Mr. Alasan Andani excused himself or excused himself not to participate in it, you've been unfair to him in terms of your conclusions on this matter. So let's go to Sada board. Do you have the records of their board meetings? You must know that when the matter of opening bank account came, what role did Mr. Andani play as member of the board in deciding it? If he had excused himself, as he is required to do by law, as I expect him to do, then you'll be most unfair to him. And it is not only in the Sada legislation.
Right.
In every other legislation, Parliament has taken a particular interest in this, whether as chairman or as a board member. For instance, I'll just give you a practical example. There are companies bidding to which you are my son, and you have shareholding in that particular company, and your company appears to be potentially capable of winning the bid. When it gets to the process of evaluating the bid, the law and best practice, morality, requires that I abstain and stay away from that decision. But we simply are pushing something. No, when you get us, you want us to open up. We are saying that Joy FM stop serializing uncompleted reports and appreciate essence of audit.
And I'm telling you now,
in this particular audit report, the query was not on conflict of interest. The query professionally was absence of
we are asking that question.
Certificate.
We are asking that question. We don't need the auditor.
You would have damaged people's reputation. So there's always a disclosure of interest in every legislation that Parliament has worked on recently.
Thank you. Just hold it on there. I'm coming to Nana Kumia. And Nana, once again, the question of conflict of interest is a question that was brought up by Joy. It's not the auditor's question. The auditor's question was the absence of the investment certificate. The auditor's questions included the lack of prudence in deciding on a call account instead of an investment account or a higher yielding, facility.
I am surprised at the minister's attempt to disaggregate the matter. The audit report touched on the lack of a certificate, or if you like, a receipt in ordinary language. That finding invites the question that Joy FM asked. Because you have a situation where there are anomalies with the accounts. Who is supposed to supervise the operations of the accounts for Sada? The board. The money is in the bank of the board chairman. So who is going to supervise the discrepancy? We are talking about lack of receipt. We are talking about the quality of the investment, the nature of the investment. It's the board that is going to oversee.
The bank says the documents are available, the statements are everything is clean. Now, there's no problem.
I'm saying that it is the board of Sada that is going to oversee the investment, isn't it? Now you have discrepancies around the investment being raised by the audit. Who is supposed to supervise, oversee that investments are done correctly? The board. Now, if the monies are with the in the bank of the board chairman, who is going to who within Sada is going to supervise the investment? So the finding made by the audit that there are discrepancies with investments invites the question that you asked, that there's conflict of interest because the supervision is compromised. It's a very simple matter.
You know for a fact. You know for a fact that he has a role in the supervision.
No, I'm not imputing.
No, something
right,
because he is telling you your management report.
Right,
and read something to guide him.
Which management report?
No, I'm even taking it from him. I don't have it. And something here. We recommend here.
46.
We recommend.
We recommend that the chief executive should ensure that an investment certificate was obtained from the bank as well as the interest that had accrued on it to authenticate the transaction.
So this is a management function, not a board function. And then Akumia must accept legally that there's a distinction between management and board at all times.
Thank you.
To talk of laxity of the board, I would not argue with it. But look at what the audit query is obligated the chief executive and management
what
to do.
What the minister is saying is exactly what I'm saying. It's a management function. That function has to be exercised over the board chairman. Because that function, the bank, the supervision of the investment, is in the bank of the chairman of the board. That is what, because the board is supposed to supervise the management. So if even the management is lacking, the board chairman himself is involved in the matter. So where does he exercise his supervisory role?
I see.
That's where the conflict of interest comes in.
I see.
And especially when issues are being raised about receipt for the investment, issues are being raised about the quality of the investment, the return of the investment, and so on. Who's supposed to ensure these things? Who's supposed to supervise the management? The board, and the board chairman is involved.
All right, Koku, now I say that it is my own interpretation to say this may not be a conclusive report, and this management letter, because I'm taking a cue from paragraphs 2 and 3. Paragraph 3 says that we shall be grateful to have your response within 30 days, blah, blah, of receipt of this. And the rest follow. And this letter was done on the 25th of February 2014. Be that as it may, we know that when these drafts, if that's what it is, when these drafts or interim reports go, very little change.
Well, not in all cases. not in all cases. There have been occasions where the draft ended up virtually being looking like the final. I think the JIDA thing, we had a classic example there. There were a few missing links and things.
And you look at this throughout, you don't find one comment of praise, one comment of lawful prudential conduct.
Well, I'll be careful. I'll proceed cautiously. Because we've gone through this exercise before. And I was so excited when my brother Aruna made a point that we should not, put out prematurely reports that are not final, Auditor General's. This is a matter of principle that is really non-negotiable. But we journalists, we are a very difficult breed of animals. You can't restrict us, and so we do it. I think I've done some before. But interestingly, 2001 or 2, and I think Aruna will remember, it's 2002, the minority led by Bagby, who was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, did something that he's cautioning against today. The draft report, an interim report on the castle renovation and the Ministry of Works and Housing, and they ran with it and it created chaos. It ended up that it was an interim report, a draft one, and most of the findings were not conclusive. You remember Jacob eventually when the final report came out, quite a lot of those findings were found suspect. So in some instances, draft or interim report is a very dangerous weapon to use. You can go out there and step on a mine, on a mine. Okay, so one is very cautious. And in this respect, let me be honest, I have not cited the report that you are talking about. I have not. I haven't seen a copy anywhere. I've only been reading Joy FM's publications and listening to radio. If it is an interim report, then you have to use it because you are a journalist, I'm a journalist, I'm not going to be able to impose an embargo on you. But you've got to use it with a lot of caution. If those replies to the queries have not been captured, you've got to be very careful. Now, on your own my Joy Online, I saw this thing. You published it. A letter from the lawyers of Stanbic to your station, and I think ethically you have published it on your website. And let me read these portions. It says, please note that Stanbic Ghana is a limited liability company with shareholders who are distinct.
Sorry, I just wanted a bit of clarity on this. Doc, I don't know what expertise you have in this area, but I've been speaking to some audit people and accounting people. I want to know what you know about it. This is a management letter which says in paragraph 2 that our observations during the audit have been discussed with management and their responses incorporated in this management letter. Then you go to paragraph 3 and it says, we shall be grateful to have your response within 30 days on receipt of this management letter as stipulated in section blah blah blah. And this one is sent to the acting chief executive. When you read the two, how do you reconcile it?
It's not a big deal. I've seen it many times.
That is complete, or is it incomplete?
It's not complete.
No,
it's not complete.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon.
No, I wanted just a brief intervention. We'll finish and then you take your turn.
Okay, all right. So I don't think there's any contradiction as far as the two statements are concerned. First of all, any audit report, even if it's final, it goes through processes, and it has to be made clear that at this particular stage, factually, it's a draft report. Apart from the fact that it's a draft report, it's going to proceed to the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, and it's going to be, looked at critically. And officers who have been asked to provide certain clarifications and explanations will be called upon.
I get that point.
Yeah. So even though they are claiming that they have had some discussions with management to be able to provide clarifications about certain findings, at the same time, that those explanations that they will be providing at that level is not conclusive.
Okay.
And
thank you.
Further information will be
management letter is not the same as an audit report.
Thank you very much.
As far as I know.
Right.
And we've gone through all these exercises before. If you remember the Ministry of Information and those so-called toll debt levy matters, we went through all those processes. But I just wanted to make a point. This is through the courtesy of your website. It says, furthermore, Sada has not acquired any shares or interest in the bank. The content of the article alludes only to the fact that Sada has placed funds with the bank. It is tried knowledge that this cannot in any way be construed to mean that Sada has invested in the bank. The letter implies ownership of a part, or the latter implies ownership of a part or the entire bank, which is far from the truth. As you may be aware, banks are required under the laws in Ghana to retain documentation of their clients and their transactions for a given period. Stanbic Bank mandatorily complies with these provisions. Therefore, for any report to suggest that funds placed with the bank are lost under any circumstances is ignorant and malicious, to say the least. The last paragraph here. As you claim that your source of information is an audit report, it is instructive to note that standard audit practice requires an auditor to confirm an auditee's information. This thing happened last week. Incredible.
It happens at this time.
As is my alarm for her.
Okay.
As you claim that your source of information is an audit report, it is instructive to note that standard audit practice requires an auditor to confirm an auditee's information with his bankers, with the consent of the auditee. Unfortunately, in this instance, this fundamental and indispensable step in auditing has not been complied with. For me, this is an incomplete exercise. That's my view. You are asking for an investment certificate. They are telling you that it is not even an investment. So it is a final report from the Auditor General. And I don't know if this is coming from the Auditor General's office. Is it?
Yes,
this audit report?
At the regional level.
Yes, so it is still the Auditor General's office. I'm sure if they completed the exercise, they would have gone through this process. If the Sada management is unable to produce documentation for whatever reasons, nothing stops the Auditor General. For the law empowers the Auditor General to request the bank for documentation. And as it's been stated here, the bank itself is under obligation by law to provide those documentation. If this exercise is completed, you may get revision as to what is the nature of that deposit that has been made with the bank, as to whether it's an investment account or not. But I think it's too early. I don't have a problem with journalists who do that, because I do it too. So I am not about to judge journalistic standards.
The thing is that, like I said in my sum, you would find that, and I'm sure that subsequently we'll come to interrogate those matters. You find that in a report, regardless that it's interim, you don't find one single correct thing done according to the auditors. There are taxes that ought to be paid that have not been paid, or the entity's money is used to pay tax, personal income tax or so, when the people are supposed to pay. There are people who have been paid salaries that they ought to refund, and they were asked to refund the money. Sada was supposed to take the steps to get the people to refund the money. For a long time, they have not acted. The money is not being refunded. Right. You see, there are travels that were done without good approval. And I'm saying that it may be interim, but to find that in such a report, you can't find one single line or sentence or of commendation or pointing to rightness of something that's been done. It must be a worry, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Definitely, it's worrying. It's a genuine concern to anybody, you know, who has an interest in development, and particularly in the project like Sada, which is an organization that is supposed to help spur growth at that particular pole, to ensure that at least there is a kind of a match between the gap that existed between the north and the south. So to that extent, it's something that is very worrying, that reports have come and they are talking about things that suggest that appropriate actions were not taken, or at least certain things happened that would go a long way to affect, you know, the image and the progress of this particular organization. However, like panelists have discussed, in saying so, at the same time, we are sounding a word of caution to journalists and to all concerned to understand that there is a corporate image that we need to protect as a country, and we need all to come together to support this particular great initiative, so that before we come out with any particular publication or anything about this particular great organization, we need to weigh the benefits against, you know, the demerits. So, for instance, if at the end of the day there are people who are, you know, taking this particular organization seriously, like development partners, like private people who are trying to engage with the organization, and then we come out with reports that maybe, being branded as draft, not incomplete. At the same time, the people who have been tasked to run it are being cited as having, you know, exercised, you know, good judgment in taking decisions. Is something that, you know, we are very worried about, and we think that everybody, including management, including journalists, including all concerned, should be guided by the principle of corporate identity, by the principle of ensuring that the organization succeeds, you know, in ensuring that that particular area of the country is supported to come at par with the South. In fact, if you look at the program, you know, if we look at the real program of development that is being, you know, employed in this particular one, various poles have been identified across the country, and not just the north. And this one has been started. There is also a Western Corridor Development Authority that has been talked about. It's also another pole that, you know, development people are hoping that when projects start there, it will also, you know, support in the growth of the country. Okay. So I think that as a body,
I regret that you came in a bit late.
Yeah. Can I just?
Our time is up. Just forgive me.
I want to make some small.
We'll return to this. We'll return to this substantively subsequently. So we'll deal with the whole body.
Yeah, but
and all the details.
Yeah, something on the issue.
Because it's murky in there very much. I can tell you that.
On the issue of
sorry, I've run out of time. And thank you very much for all of you who have been. Yes, unfortunately, yeah, it's a standing matter, and we could deal with some time to come. Thank you very much. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. You've been listening to Abdul Malik Wekubaku, Junior Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Haruna Idrisi is Minister of Trade and Industry. Nana Komia is former Communications Director of the NPP. Dr. Mawea Zakaria is Development and Organization Policy Analyst. We spoke to Senyo Hosi on the phone of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, and we also spoke to Kofi Adams and Yoni Kolendi. Thank you very much. This show is repeated at 9:30 on Multi TV as well. Good afternoon. The news is up next, and our continuing coverage of the NPP's conference will be underway. Thank you very much.